Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Translation Studies and Training, SOTST. Master of Arts, Translation Studies, Maths, English. First year, MTTO 14 Translation and Indian Languages. Block 1 Indian Language Family. Unit-4 Chinese-Tibetan and Other Language Families. 4.0 Objectives. In this unit our objective will be to discuss about the two main groups of Chinese-Tibetan languages, Sinitic and Tibetan, about their geographical sphere and classification of both the groups and the structural properties of these languages. About other language families of the world. 4.1 Introduction. In this unit we will discuss about the fourth language family represented in India, that is Chinese-Tibetan language family. Together with this, we will also briefly outline other language families in the world. Chinese-Tibetan language family, also called Sino-Tibetan or Tibetan Chinese, is one of the largest language families in the world with the largest number of first language speakers. Today this group exists in two subgroups, Sinitic, or Chinese, and Tibeto-Burman. Sinitic refers to the various Chinese languages and Tibetan languages are spoken mainly in Tibet, Myanmar and northeast India. It is the Tibetan part of these languages that is represented in India, northeast India. There are no records of the original or parent Sino-Tibetan language, but through the similarities of languages, linguists have reconstructed the Proto-Sino-Tibetan from which the later forms, the forms we know today, have been assumed to be derived. Languages, as you know, are dynamic entities, they borrow, give and change with various influences, and with the flow of time what we see must have taken years to come into that shape. The same is true for this language family. What was originally a single language has developed into vast, diverse family of language under the pressure of natural change, intermingled with frequent and often intimate contact with speakers of other languages. Thurgood 2003, 3, 4.2 Chinese-Tibetan languages. The languages of this family are spoken in northeast India, Myanmar, Bangladesh and northern Thailand, Tibet, China, Korea and Taiwan. Sino-Tibetan (ST) speakers are associated with the Neolithic Yangshao culture which originated in Yellow River Valley in the central plains of China, Thurgood 2003, 3. Later this family split into Sinitic, Chinese, and Tibetan. The family has come to be the way it is because of multiple migrations, often into areas where other languages were spoken. Paula 2001. Proto-Sino Tibetan is assumed to be spoken in Yellow River Valley around 6,000 years ago. Sino-Tibetan has the second largest number of speakers, after Indo-European, due largely to the over 1 billion Sinitic speakers. Except for Burmese, most Tibeto-Burman languages have relatively few speakers. Paula 2006, 393. Commenting on the vastness of ST languages, Grierson writes, excepting the Austric, no great family of speeches is spoken over so wide an extent of the eastern hemisphere from Central Asia to southern Burma, and from Baltistan to Peking as that formless, ever-moving, ant horde of dialects, the Tibetan Chinese. The number of its speakers far exceeds those of the Austric and even those of the Indo-European family. So vast is the area covered by it, and so apparently infinite is the number of its members, that no single scholar can hope to master it in its entirety. A few of them, such as Tibetan, Burmese, Siamese, or Chinese, have been more or less thoroughly investigated by specialists. Of others we have only a few words, single bricks, each of which we have to take as specimens of an entire house, while of others, we know only names, or not even that. 1927, 40. Matizov, 2003, has grouped the languages of this family into the Sinosphere and Indosphere due to the linguistic and political influence of China and India respectively on the groups of these languages. Subgrouping and classification of Sino-Tibetan is highly controversial, mainly due to Paula 2006. The differences in criteria for subgrouping. The paucity of reliable data, particularly on morphosyntactic patterns. The fact that the development and distribution of these languages has been greatly influenced by migration and language contact. Apart from Sinitic and Tibetan groups, Tai Kadai, Juangdong, and Mong Me, Miao Yao, Languages were also used to be included in ST languages, but the similarities among these groups are now believed to be a result of contact influence. Sino-Tibetan is commonly thought to consist of two primary branches, Sinitic and Tibeto-Burman. Both the group are further classified to include many subgroups. At first we will discuss the classification of Chinese group of languages and then move to Tibeto-Burman classification. 4.2.1 Chinese. Chinese family of languages is a group of related dialects. The dialect groups include many dialects, which are sometimes non-mutually intelligible. In the words of Norman, 2003, 72, Chinese is a vast dialectal complex containing hundreds of mutually unintelligible local varieties, each of which can be viewed as a distinct object for comparison. Norman comments that the term dialect is used in different context for Chinese languages from that of the European context. In Chinese context, local forms of speech are referred to as dialects of a particular place. One reason for using the term dialects for Chinese languages lies in their use of common script and sharing a common literary and cultural history. Crystal. 1996. Generally agreed number of dialect groups in Chinese is 6, 7 and 8 dialect groups are also mentioned. These groupes of dialects are initially distinguished on the basis of the reflexes of the historically voiced initial consonants, Li, 1936-1937. These groups are Le Polar, 2006. I. Mandarin, Northern and Southwestern China. E. Wu, Jiangsu and Zhejiang. E. Xiang, Hunan. IV. Gan, Jiangxi. Versus U, Guangdong and Guangxi. V. Min, Guangdong, Fujian, Henan Island, and Taiwan. Some scholars classify the HAC group, Guangdong, Fujian, Jiangxi, Sichuan and Taiwan, as a part of Gan group, and others identify it as a separate group. Norman, 1988, 2003, has further grouped these dialect groups as I. Northern group, Mandarin. E. Central group, some Xiang dialects, Wu in Gan, and E. Southern group, Yu, HAC and some Xiang dialects. Min group was not included in the above classification by Norman, as in his views the Min dialects lay outside the mainstream of Chinese linguistic development. Mandarin has the largest geographic spread and population, while Min does not have a large spread and population. More commonly, the word Chinese is used for the national standard language, Puthongwa, P. Mizo Kokichin. We can end our discussion on the classification of the languages of the Northeast India with the words of Berling, 2003, 189. Much more work is needed before we will have a definitive classification of the languages of the Eastern border. The similarities among these languages are tantalizing but difficult to pin down. And until more solid work is done, it seems best to withhold judgment. The individual groups seem sound, but how they relate to each other and whether they fall into one or several branches of Tibeto-Burman awaits further data and further analysis. 4.3 Structural features. Sino-Tibetan languages are monosyllabic, isolating and tonal languages. In isolating languages, words do not change form with inflectional morphemes. Tibeto-Burman languages are less monosyllabic and isolating than the other Sino-Tibetan languages. Word order is important in expressing grammatical relationship in ST languages. The number of tones differs in each language, 3 tones in Burmese, 4 in Mandarin Chinese and 9 in Cantonese Chinese. The details given here are from Le Polar, 2006. Writing about the structure of these languages, Le Polar, 2006, writes, at the earliest reconstructible stage of the development, possibly 8,000 years ago, the Proto-Sino-Tibetan was monosyllabic, but with much more complicated syllable structure than most of the modern languages. Matizov, 1991. Reconstruct the syllable canon as pref, ci, g, v, cf, s. Ci equals initial consonant, g equals glide, equals vowel length, cf equals final consonant, s equals suffixal s, parentheses mark items that do not appear in the syllables. There was no relational morphology, but there was derivational morphology in the form of prefixes, suffixes, and voicing alterations of the initial consonants. Modern languages has moved much more towards bisyllabic or polysyllabic words, although they are often reduced again to sisq syllables. Syllable and a half, or monosyllabic forms, and tone systems have developed in Sinitic and many of TB languages, either through contact, through independent innovation, or both. For example, in Sinitic the tones developed out of consonant suffixes and loss of initial voicing. Chinese became more isolating, around roughly 3,500 years. The clause in Proto-Sino-Tibetan was verb-focused, i.e., verb was the key element and noun phrases were optional. In Sinitic the clause is largely verb-medial, as the verb has come to function as the divider between topical, preverbal, and non-topical, postverbal elements. There has clearly been a progressive change away from verb final order over time. We find diversity in ST languages, in phonology as well as in morphology. The Qiang language having 36 initial consonants, a complex system of consonant clusters in initial and final positions and no tones. While Lahu has only 24 consonant initials, a simple C, V syllable structure, and phonemic inventories. Qiang is agglutinative whereas Lahu is isolating. Qiang has complex affixal system of direction marking, and evidential marking on the verb and definite marking in the noun phrases, whereas Lahu has none of these features. In Indospheric languages, TB languages of India, Nepal, we often find development of relative pronouns and correlative structures and also of retroflexive initial consonants. In the Sinosphere, the development of tone systems and more analytical structure can be observed. In Chinese, contact influence can be observed from the Altaic languages in the north and Austro-Asiatic, Tai-Kadai, Hmong-Mei languages in the south. 4.3.1 Structural features of the Tibeto-Burman languages. Given here are some structural features of TB languages discussed in Abbey, 2001, 39-42. The use of tones at phonemic levels is found in all the languages of this family. For example, words from Tangkhul Naga, khu, rising tone, equals red, khu equals rotten, khu, falling tone, equals lime, are differentiated only on the tone contour. These languages provide vowel clusters. Meithai, mun, means skin, Ayan rules, laws in Mryoyob, important. Chelia, 1997, mentions 36 vowel sequences in Meithai. Most of the languages of this family are isolating in nature. Tense distinction is maintained between future and non-future, which is symbolized by an adverb, of time. Verb indicates only aspect. Do not distinguish a separate word class for adjectives. Languages of this family SOV in nature. Notions of subject and predicate are alien to Sino-Tibetan. Saint languages are topic prominent languages. All TB languages are OV, except for Bai and Karen languages, which are Wo, more specifically Swo, and share other characteristics of word order of OV languages such as they employ postpositions rather than prepositions. Genitive modifiers are placed before the possessed noun. Dreyer 2003, 43, verbs have intricate system of evidential particles that characterize the nature of speakers. Information. The pragmatic features such as hearsay, preconceived knowledge, first-hand knowledge, visual versus auditory information and other emotional attitudes are encoded in the verbal morphology. 4.4 Other language families of the world. So far, you have read about 4 language families which are represented in different parts of India: Indo-Aryan, Austro-Asiatic, Dravidian and Tibeto-Burman. Languages of one more family are spoken in India, namely Andamanese languages. Andamanese languages are spoken in the Andaman Island in the Bay of Bengal. 2 distinct groups, the Little Andamanese, LA, and Great Andamanese, GA, speak different languages. LA group speak Onge, Jarawa, and Sentinelese. GA group speak 10 different languages which are spoken by 10 different tribes. We know very little about the languages of this family, notes Abbey, 2001, 42, very little is known about the languages of this family. Not more than a few hundred speakers remain today. The Andamanese language family is considered oldest of the Indian language families and has been spoken by the Negritos in the area for last 3000 years. Indo-Aryan language family is one of the largest group of Indo-European language family. Other families of languages related to Indo-European are Albanic, Anatolian, Armenian, Balto-Slavic, Germanic, Greek, Italic and Celtic. There are other language families represented in various parts of world other than Indo-European. Some non-Indo-European languages are shown in the table 4.1 below. Table 4.1 Some of the non-Indo-European languages of the world. Look at the screen. We will briefly outline some language families of the world. URALIC. The 30 languages of this family are spoken in the region of North Ural Mountains in Russia over 7,000 years ago. Crystal 1996. Two main branches of the family are I. Finno-Ugric, Central Europe and Northern Territories where Europe and Asia meet. Finnic branch, Finnish, Finland, Sweden, and Russia, and through emigration in USA. Estonian, Ugric branch, Hungarian, or Magyar, in Hungary and other parts of the world through emigration, Khanty, or Ostiak, and Mansi, or Vogel, east of Urals around the river Ob. Ingrian, Livonian and Votic spoken within Russia, and have very few speakers, Karelian, Samoyedic, Siberia and Arctic Russia. Widely spoken language is Nenets, or Urak. Selkup, or Ostiak Samoyed, Nanasan, Tavgi or Aram, Enets, only 100 speakers in 1989 and seems to have recently died out. Crystal 1996, Caucasian. A small area between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea surrounding the Caucasus Mountains contains one of the highest concentrations of languages in the world. Crystal 1996, 307. 40 languages belong to Caucasian family of languages. These languages are classified into 4 regionally based types. I. Northwest Caucasian, or Abkhazo-Adyghian group. E. North Central Caucasian group. E. Northeast Caucasian group. IV. Southern Caucasian group, or Kartvelian. Uzbek, one of language of this family, was reported to have only one speaker in 1980s. The language has 80 consonants and it gives this language family a special place in phonological studies. Languages of this family are Kartvelian, one of the dialects of Georgian, Zan, Swan, in the south, Kabadian, Adighe, and Abkhaz, Uzbek, in the northwest, and in the northeast 2 groups of languages are spoken. Dagestanian group and Nak group. The main languages of Dagestanian group are Avar, Lesgian, Kuri, Dargwa, Khudkili, Luk and Tabassaran. The main languages of Nak group, Chechen, Ingush, and Bats. Paleo-Siberia N. The groups of languages spoken by inhabitants of northeastern Siberia have been studied as Paleo-Siberian. The groups are not genetically related to each other and do not constitute a family in the linguistic sense, nor are the links with other families clear. Crystal 1996, 308. In the northeast, Luo-Veltan group consists of Chukchi, Koryak, or Naimilan, Kamchadal, or Italman, Aluta and Karek. To the west, Yukagir group with a single language Yukagir or Odul. Yeniseian group along the Yenisei River in the further west people speak Ket or Yenisei Ostiak. In the south Gilyak or Nivki people speak which has no other relatives. Altaic. Altaic family covers a vast area from the Balkan Peninsula to the northeast of Asia. The family has got its name from Altai mountain. This family consists of 3 groups, Turkic, Mongolian and Tungusic. Among 60 languages of the family, over half belong to Turkic group. Turkic group includes Turkish, spoken in Turkey and surrounding territories, Azerbaijani and Turkmen in southwest, Russia, Iran and Afghanistan, in the southeast Uzbek, Uzbekistan, Uyghur, China and nearby Russia, in the northwest. Tatar, Kazakh, Kyrgyz and Bashkir, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Russia, and in the northeast Yakut, Tuva and others with very less number of speakers. Mongolian languages include Mongol, in Mongolian Republic of China, Buryat, Dongxiang, or Santa. Dagur and Tu, Monga, and in the west Oirat, Kalmyk and Mongol. Tungusic Evenki, formerly Tungus. Lamat, or even, Nani and Manchu. Thai. Thai languages are spoken in Southeast Asia, mainly in Thailand with other countries Laos, North Vietnam, China and Myanmar. Thai languages are divided into 3 groups, Southwestern, Central and Northern. Main languages of this family are Thai, official language of Thailand, Lao or Laotian. Thailand and Laos, official language of Laos, Isan, Thailand, Juang, China, Lana or Yuan. Thailand, Shan, Do, Bui, Dong and Nung. Languages of Africa. Africa contains more languages than any other continent, some 2,000 spoken by over 400 million people. The language total is uncertain, because many areas are inaccessible and many dialect groups have not been well investigated. Crystal 1996, 316. Very few of these languages are spoken by large numbers. Africa is the continent of lingua francas, Crystal, Arabic, Swahili, English, and French. Some pidgins and creoles have been used to foster communication between various communities. African languages are classified in 4 groups: Niger-Congo, Nilo-Saharan, Khoisan and Afro-Asiatic. Niger-Congo, largest African family with around 1,350 languages and several thousand dialects. This group is further divided into several subgroups. Benue-Congo is the largest group, Central and Southern Africa, Kwa, southern part of West Africa, Adamawa-Ubangi group, Remote. Northern part of Central Africa, Gur group, Atlantic, Mande and Kordofanian are some subgroups. And each subgroup contains various languages. Nilo-Saharan, also called Chari Nile, as the languages of this group are spoken in the upper parts of the Chari and Nile rivers. Some 180 languages are included in this group. Khoisan, smallest language family in Africa with less than 40 languages. The languages are well known for the use of click consonants. Afro-Asiatic languages of this family, formerly known as Hamito-Semitic, are spoken in North Africa and Southwest Asia. This group is further divided in 5 or 6 subgroups. Semitic languages spoken in Southwest Asia and North Africa. Arabic is the major language of this group. Tigrinya, Amharic and Gurage are other well-known languages of this group. Egyptian, now extinct, Berber, Cushitic, Chadic and Omotic branches are less widespread. Some other language families and language isolates. Apart from the language families discussed, there are other language families: Austronesian, Indo-Pacific, American Indian languages and Australian Aboriginal languages. Some languages for which no relationship can be established with any other language are known as language isolates. A language can be classified as an isolate when no resemblance with other languages can be determined. But sometimes a particular language can be classified as isolate when little is known about the language, both historically and linguistically, and it may be that further research indicates some relationship to other languages. Iberian, southern and eastern Spain, Basque, southwest Europe, and Burushaski, northwest Kashmir are some of the language isolates. 4.5 Let us sum up. We have discussed Sino-Tibetan language family in this unit. Classification of ST language family is not agreed upon by scholars. There are different groups proposed by various linguists. But 2 generally accepted groups PF languages are Chinese and Tibeto-Burman. Tibeto-Burman languages are mainly represented in northeastern India and adjacent areas. It is difficult for linguists to tell exactly how many languages of Tibeto-Burman group are spoken in northeastern India, as some of the areas are inaccessible and same languages are known by different names by the speakers and the outsiders. Sometimes it is difficult to differentiate languages and dialects both in Chinese languages and in Tibeto-Burman languages. Chinese languages are called dialect groups, and the connotation of the term dialect is not the same as in the European context. Most of the languages of ST family are monosyllabic, tonal in isolating. The languages are also classified as Indosphere and Sinosphere as the 2 groups show contact influence of the surrounding areas. Other language family represent in India is Andamanese. Very little is known about the family at present. There are many languages spoken all over the world. All the languages have been classified into diverse groups, but there are certain languages for which no linguistic or historical relation has been established. These languages are called language isolates. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.